All right, shalom to the 12 tribes. All praise to the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, which is the name of the Father and the Son in the Paleo Hebrew tongue. Shabbat shalom to all of y'all brothers and sisters that are keeping the Sabbath today. And if you're not, shalom, peace and blessings, anyways. So today's lesson is going to be titled Courting or Starting a Family, Marriage in the End Times, Trying the Spirit and Counting the Cost. So yesterday I was talking to a brother about this on the phone. This issue has been coming up a lot, as it always has over the years since I've been in the truth, about going on 7 years now. One of the most questioned or asked about topics that I personally get from brothers and sisters, because we know that we're living in the days of Noah, as the scriptures say, and it says people are going to be getting married and given unto marriage, drinking, partying, doing all types of craziness. Um, but it is a good thing, I will say first, before we get into the lesson, to want to be married, especially for sisters wanting to be covered, for brothers wanting to be a covering. And because of that, this lesson, even though I've done it multiple times over the years, something as we get closer to the days of Jacob trouble, where it's going to be really bad compared to now. Um, I'll probably end up maybe even most I willing doing another one later on. But we're gonna go ahead and start in First John chapter 4 and verse 1.
Cons First John chapter 4 verse 1 says, "Beloved, believe not every spirit."
So it says not to believe every spirit. Now the Most High is talking to his beloved here. Who is his beloved? It's those that love him, and in turn he loves them. So he's giving people that actually love him sound advice and wisdom on how to deal with anybody, whether it be just a friend or a brother or sister, so called brother or sister in the truth, or whether it be someone you're courting or being courted by, or someone you're going to marry, or even maybe somebody you're married to and you're married to them, and then you find out about the truth, because that's something else that happens with a lot of brothers and sisters. They're already married, and then they find out about the truth, and now they're kind of like, man, well, what do I do? Being unequally yoked. Go ahead.
But try the spirits, whether they are of Yahweh, because many false prophets are gone out into the world.
So it says, try the spirits to see if they are of the Most High. When you read the NOT and the GNT, most of the time when it says to try something, it says test. So it'll say test the spirits, right? And for those of y'all who saw the little video I had posted earlier on Instagram, you will never know anybody truthfully until they are tested,
Mhm.
right? And using martial arts as my favorite example, like always, there's so many people, there's so many different gyms I've gone to, and oh, I'm 50-1 in street fights, and oh, I boxed my whole life, or I did this or that or whatever. And you never know if that's true or false until they're tested, and they actually, you get in there with them and you're like, okay, this guy is full of it, or you know what, yeah, he was telling the truth, right? Either
Mhm.
way. And it's the same thing in the truth. You can't just go off of what people say, because if we all went off of what people would say, we would all be duped. We would all be led astray, because there's many, many, many false prophets, it says here. But imagine, not everybody claims to be a prophet,
God.
right? So even more so than false prophets, there's false brothers and sisters out there, and that's something else that has been coming up a lot lately, with sisters and with a few brothers, just this past week, just talking about and seeking counsel on, brothers or elders or counselors and things of that nature that were false in this truth. And it's something that should be expected of us. But when you're newer to the truth, you're greener in the truth, and you haven't experienced it yet, or maybe it's only happened once, and you don't expect it as much,
Mhm.
right? And it's just like, again, going back to martial arts, when you're training and somebody gets you in a choke, and then you're like, oh dang man, he got lucky, and then he gets it again and again and again. You're like, okay, wait, something's up, right? And you're gonna be more vigilant of it. But you want to read that one more time?
Con. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of Yahweh, because many false prophets are gone out into the world.
So try every spirit. If you want to get First Thessalonians 5:21, So you have to try every spirit, whether it's a brother, whether it's a sister, whether they say they've been in the truth for a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. What I've come to realize almost 7 years in the truth is almost 7 years in the faith. I'll say for me personally, I didn't come into the truth until I got baptized through Yahweh in the name of Yahushua. And in those almost 7 years, one thing that I've learned is that a lot of brothers and sisters aren't who or weren't who they said they were.
It does say many
Yeah,
are out
many
here in the
false
world.
prophets, many false prophets, and that's from dealing with just regular, what people would say, regular brothers and sisters. That's from over the last 5 years courting a few sisters, and that's from dealing with and almost joining and becoming affiliations of 4 or 5 different camps, and talking to the leaders or elders of these camps, and just seeing their actions and things of that nature. I could tell you there are many false brothers, sisters, so called brothers, sisters, elders, friends in this truth.
Con. This is First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 21. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good.
So you're supposed to prove all things and hold fast that which is good. What is good? Yahushua even said in Matthew 19, when there was a man that came up to him and said, "Oh, good master, what good things should I do to make it into the kingdom?" And he said, "Why are you calling me good? There's only one good, and that's the Most High." Right? So it's not talking about holding fast to, oh, this good brother over here, this good camp, this good elder, whatever the case may be. It's saying to hold fast to the good, which is the word, right?
Mhm.
Which comes directly from the Most High. So anytime anybody's moving contrary to it, you have got to separate yourself from it after people have proven that they're not going to be corrected, or that they cannot be reproved. What is that? Titus 3:10. If you can get
Mhm.
Titus 3:10 real quick, right? Yeah, at first, you want to kind of, I don't know a better way of saying it, kind of call people out on it, check people on it, and see if they're doing it in sincerity, because some people have just, they're sincere about following the word, but they just been taught incorrectly.
Mhm.
And there's a few amount of people that will be corrected according to the truth. If you show them, if they say, "Oh yeah, I believe this, this, and this," and you're like, "Well, where'd you learn that from?" Or "Can you prove that to me with the scriptures?" And then a lot of times what happens is, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, check out this video of this brother," right? But in order for us to prove all things, we have to be able to prove it with the scriptures ourselves, right? And that goes as far as women. If you're being courted by a man, he should be able to teach you something
Mhm.
himself.
Yep.
Or I know it's less likely to happen, but if you're being, I don't want to say taught, but I know some sisters, what they do is they're already being taught by another man through a sister, right? So say a sister comes into the truth and she's new to it, and she doesn't really want to reach out to a man, and she makes friends, she befriends a sister, and then she's learning from a sister, like, "Oh, do you know anything about this? Oh yeah, look, my husband taught me this, that, and the other." Right? You still have to be able to prove it without, beyond a reasonable doubt,
Mhm.
right? And if they can't prove it, then in order to hold fast that which is good, you have to move on from that.
This is Titus chapter 3, verse 10 and 11. It says, "A man that is a heretic, after the first and second admonition, reject."
So a man that is a heretic, somebody who holds on to something that is other than the doctrine of Hamashiach and the doctrine of the Most High, right? If they can't be corrected, and that's even happened before, to where, say, a man is trying to be with a woman and he can't be corrected by another brother, right? That should be a red flag for the sister as well. Like, okay,
Mhm.
wait, but I was questioning that too. Or what'll happen sometimes is, when sisters are in the right spirit, because I know it happened to me first coming in the truth, my rib would be like, "Hey, do you know about this, whatever?" And then I'll go to someone who is an elder to me, and then they may teach me something that I thought was something different, right? But I'm accepting of it, or I was accepting of it because I was able to get precept upon precept, and prove wrong what I had already learned, right? That's a green flag, right? But after the second admonition, if somebody's holding on to something that is not biblical that they can't even prove, then that should be a red flag in courting as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like it says, once you know you can't prove something, that's where it becomes sin, and that's you're basically condemning yourself. If you want to read 10 and 11.
Con. Says a man that is a heretic after the first and second admonition reject, knowing that he that is such is subverted and sinneth, being condemned of himself.
So when a man especially chooses to hold on to something that he cannot prove
Mm-hmm.
beyond a reasonable doubt, or that people disprove, he's basically condemning himself. And at that point, if you end up with that man, if you end up marrying that man,
Mm-hmm.
then all he's going to do is drag you down spiritually as well, and your
Mm-hmm.
household. And then you have children, and then guess what, they're getting torn down spiritually as well,
Mm-hmm.
because your partner is either going to help you, going to help save your soul. I remember that's a post I made one time. He's either going to help save your soul or drain it till it's no longer whole. And that's literally, I've seen that so many times over the years,
Mm-hmm.
so many, where one of them, the majority of the time, it's sad, but it's the sister going harder for the Most High, and then the brother ends up pulling her down, right? But a few times, one of my beloved brothers, it was the opposite. He was going hard for the Most High. He even got baptized in Yahweh Shai's name, and then he was like to his rib, "Okay, well now I can baptize you," and she was like, "Nah, well I'm not ready." And I could tell that really pulled him down, like spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that happens. So that happens as well, where a woman will pull down a man, which is why, if you want to get Proverbs 31:3, why you're not supposed to give your power to a woman, right? And that's another thing when it comes to courting, when it comes to trying to start a family, that brothers especially, y'all got to watch out for, because there's many, many different ways that you can give your power to a woman without even realizing it.
This is Proverbs chapter 31, verse 3. Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings.
So a lot of brothers post about this, talk about this verse, make memes about this verse, and it's funny sometimes, right? But in reality, I don't think people have as good of an understanding, or as broad of an understanding on this as it really means, right? Because when you have the head of a household, or a man, right, especially let's say not even married yet, right, you're in a courting process. A courting process should be specifically not like dating, where dating is like, okay, I'm gonna get a taste, and then I'm gonna see if I want the whole cake, right? This is actually supposed to be like, okay, is this person a good baker? Does this person have the tools and the knowledge to make the cake? And can I help them to make it better? Right? So when it comes to being a man specifically, if you have the power of the household, think of all the different ways you have the power in the household. You're the head of the entire household. So this means spiritually, you're the head of the household. If the woman knows more scriptures than you, you're not ready to even court, or to even start with that process, right? Spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
Then mentally, if you're more emotional than she is, or then if you're even as emotional as a woman is,
Yeah.
and this is a big one, and people don't. I was gonna make a post about this recently, I totally forgot. As men, obviously the woman is the weaker vessel emotionally, right? One huge problem with men is that men have become so much like women, in the sense that women are reactive.
Very.
They're reactive to everything that happens. And we are not supposed to be reactive as men. We're supposed to be able to be more pensive and thoughtful of things before we even react to them. And as a man, especially, if a woman can get a negative or an emotional reaction out of you, then you definitely have to work on yourself as a man first, because that is giving your power to her. Because as a man, you're supposed to rule your household. You can't rule a household until you learn how to rule your spirit,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why it even says, Paul said, how can a man rule a church if he doesn't rule his own household? So how can a man, you take it a step further even back, how can you rule your household if you can't even rule your spirit? So giving your power in that sense as well, that's mentally and emotionally, right? Then financially, and here's one that I know some brothers aren't going to agree with, but I contend that the man should be the sole provider financially of the household.
I second that.
And I know everybody, the one verse that everyone's going to point to is Proverbs 31. It says, she's going to be doing this and that, and she buys this and sells this. I don't see a problem with a woman adding to it through working at home, because the man is still her boss,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when you have a woman going out into the world, number one, I believe that's already out of order, because when did Eve go off?
When her head wasn't there
When her
and
head.
another man came and
An,
instructed her.
Another man came and instructed her. Just like women at these jobs, the majority of bosses at jobs are going to be men.
Yep.
And we know the vast majority of men, if they're not in the truth, even some in the truth, are completely lustful.
Very.
And we also know that you cannot serve two masters,
Mm-mm.
right? So that's another thing when it comes to courting that you have to think about and talk about, is like, okay, as the woman, you got to say, well, am I going to be able to work? I know the last sister that I was thinking of courting, she was like, oh, okay, well, as far as working and stuff like that, and we talked about it, and look, this is my understanding on it, and we came to an agreement. And if it's going to be at home, and if it's this, that, or the other, we could look into it, see if there's a market for it, whatever the case may be. Some brothers and sisters won't even get that far to asking that,
Yeah.
because they're not in it for the right reasons, right? They don't want to. A lot of times you're going to skip over things, whether you consciously know it or it's unconscious, but it's still purposely done because you're only seeking for that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So financially as well, I believe the man should be the sole provider, and of course, like I said, she could help out if it's still work from home job, or if the man has a business and she's working directly under him.
Yeah, I think you said this a while back at one point in time too. It should be like, and I agree with this, but I think it should be to the point where a man should not need the woman to work. It's one thing if you want her to, and like under the guidelines, like what he said. I mean, it make more sense if you put it like that. Obviously, to each their own. Other people might disagree, whatever. But a man should not need for a woman to work in order to be able to provide or have certain things and things like that. It's a complete different uh, ball game when you need versus want.
Khan, I agree 100%. And that's something that also needs to be, me and another brother, um I would even say someone who I consider an elder, talked not too long ago about certain questions that have to be asked in, even before the courting process, right? Or during. I would say during, a lot of them are already a little late, but one of them is along the lines of that, like, okay, the finances, certain things are gonna seem kind of like you're butting into somebody's business, but you have to understand that if you're gonna bring somebody into your household, or if you're gonna be going into someone's household as a sister, you cannot be bashful
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to these types of things. Bashful meaning so shy that you don't want to cause offense.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think about it, marriage, according to the word, is for life. So you shouldn't be bashful in these types of things, right? And if it's, what is it in Sirach 40? I'm not sure. I think it's 41 or somewhere around there, where it talks about the things you should be bashful about and you shouldn't be bashful about.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's 41 or 42. But it says some people are so bashful that it's ruins their soul,
Yeah.
right? So this could be one of those things that leads to that. Certain questions that need to be asked pertaining to, okay, well, as a woman, can I work? No. Okay, well, can you provide for me? Okay, how can you provide for me?
Valid questions.
Spiritually, financially, all these different ways, right? Another question that needs to be asked, that me and another brother were talking about, that I don't think gets asked enough, and I'll be completely honest with y'all, right? The last time when I was talking to a sister, and she even ended up in my house, we are going to go through a recording process. One question I did not ask, and I should have, is, do you have any crazy family members or exes,
Just pop that question out there.
right? And for me, I mean, it had nothing to do with ex or nothing like that, but crazy family members can try to ruin, or can ruin things too, if you let them in as well, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind. There's a lot of things that go into getting to know somebody, courting somebody, and then going towards marriage that I don't think are talked about. Those are two of them.
Mm-hmm.
But another huge thing I think is that, especially with congregations and stuff like that, is that they lay out rules at, like, according to the Bible, right? They'll say, okay, I know a brother had told me not too long ago, yeah, I talked to, like, the elder of my camp, and he said, try the spirit, just make sure you try the spirit. And he was like, okay, but how do I try the spirit?
Right.
Right. So there's certain things, certain tests that you have to give people.
Mm-hmm.
And to be perfectly honest, it's pretty much impossible to test somebody over the phone and over the internet.
Yep. You can do also much.
You can only do so much, and from there, it's it's like blind faith at that point. Is basically what it is. So you have to, and I know it's hard for a lot of brothers and sisters because they don't have people in their area that are in the faith, or maybe they do, but they don't believe in the same doctrines and things of that nature. But I would highly recommend that, if possible, you get to know somebody in person. And I don't just mean like FaceTime or something like that, right? Because you could be on FaceTime with them every day, and you have still have no idea what's going on in their life,
True story.
right? I had seen something that man, which brother had posted it? Some brother had posted it on his story, and it was a dude that he fits the description of what Camps would say is Esau. He looked like a redneck. He had a big red beard, and he was with a sister that looked like, she looked like a Eve. She looked like a black Israelite woman, so-called black woman. And it was one of those videos I'm sure you've seen where they're like, okay, let's do a trust test. You give them, let them
Pass
look through your
phones.
phone. Yes, pass phones, right? So the dude real quick unlocked his phone, gave it to her, and she's trying to go through her phone real quick. You already know that's a red flag, right?
Automatically.
And anyways, the dude was in the army, and he had been overseas for, I think they said, like a year and a half.
Like, uh-oh.
And they were looking through some text messages. And long story short, the woman had a baby when he was gone, and he didn't even know.
That's tough.
So, and he was talking to her almost every day, FaceTiming and all that stuff. But that just goes to show that you never know, through the internet and through things like that. Even if you're seeing them every day, you have no idea what's going on in their life,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why you have to what, try the spirit, but try, test it also, prove all things,
Come.
prove all things. And in order to try somebody, test somebody, prove somebody, you actually have to be there in person,
Yep.
right? Because I know from firsthand experience, you could talk to a sister and be like, "Oh yeah, so I mean, you ready to be like a helpmeet? Like that's the main thing, right?" And then, "Oh yeah, for sure, like I'll help you as much as possible, blah blah." And then in person, it's like, "Okay, do this," and then it's like space out, not helping do it. Hey, remember, do this, and then okay, yeah, 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 and then space out again, and not like, you know what I mean. So you really have to prove somebody, and the same thing goes for as on the other side for women, right? And I speak more towards men because, like I said in the caption of that last post, men are held more accountable, and the proof of that is the first story in the Bible with Adam and Eve.
Yep.
Even though Eve was the one that did first what the Most High said not to do, the Most High still said, "Oh, Adam, what have you done?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the man is supposed to be in charge. The man is the head. And just like if I'm a manager at a store and this brother is a regular employee, and he's doing something he's not supposed to do, and the owner comes in, like the Most High, right? They're gonna come to me. Well, you knew he was smoking weed on the job. Why? What's up? Like, you let that happen, so now both of y'all are gone,
Yep.
right? So it's always gonna fall back on the man more heavily than it is the woman. Not to say that she ain't gonna get punished for it, but at the same time, men are supposed to be moving more in wisdom as opposed to emotion,
Con.
right? And for you sisters, I mean, it's still obviously you need to be very vigilant and things of that nature, but at the same time, it doesn't negate the fact that men are in a higher authoritative position,
Most definitely.
right? So let's get Proverbs 20 or Proverbs 12 and 26. Baba Kashaw. Proverbs 12 and 26.
Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 26. The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them.
So now none of us will be prideful enough to be like, I'm righteous and I'm more excellent than these people and stuff of that nature.
Shit,
But
I would hope nobody there prideful.
I'm sure there's some out there, but for the most part, nobody's gonna say I'm righteous and I'm more excellent than this person, right? But the Most High knows our hearts. The Most High knows our spirit. The Most High knows our works behind closed doors. He knows our reasons for doing things. He knows our conscience. So he knows who he considers more excellent in the sense of truly following after him or not.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, it says the wicked are going to try to seduce those who are sincere for the Most High. So you have to know that. And could you get Mark 4 and 14 real quick?
Yeah.
When we lived at another house before this place where we're staying at now, we would have Bible studies, and I would always end with these two scriptures right here, Mark 4:14 and 15, because you have to understand the more you're chasing after the Most High, the more it's like a light, it's like a target on your back, right? Walking in the light, the word is the light, the law is the light. The more you walk in it, the more evil spirits are going to attack you. It's just like you have a flashlight out in the dark, and all those mosquitoes come after you because they see that light right in the middle of the dark for miles around. So when you're sincerely following after the Most High, if in your conscience you know, hey, I'm a single brother or single sister, you got to understand that the more you're getting into the word, the more you're hearing lessons, and the more you're studying for yourself and praying and applying and doing all these works for the Most High, the more the enemy is going to want to come after you.
Um, this is Mark chapter 4, verse 14 and 15. The sower soweth the word, and these are they by the wayside, where the word is sown. But when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts.
So Satan is going to try to take away the word that is sown in your heart. And that could be in many different forms. That could be through somebody who messages you on social media. That could be through an old friend that calls you or texts you. That could be through a family member, right? That could be through you just finished studying and you're doing real good, and brothers have told me this before, doing real good after getting over fasting and praying and getting over certain spirits, whether it be weed or whether it be lust, and then they see something lustful and it's like they're just their whole spirit has just snatched up and they're pulled right back into it
Mm-hmm.
right after studying or right after they feel or real good or right after they pray or right after they read something. And that's the enemy knowing that you're trying to walk that straight path, and he's trying to throw you right off that path, putting a stumbling block in front of you, hoping you fall off of it, right? And many times, like I said, more times often than not, it's going to be through people. It's because vessels
Yeah.
need people in order to live out or to play out that sin.
Yeah.
So that is going, whether it be straight through you, a spirit jumps on you, or whether it be through somebody else and they're coming to you, right? And sometimes it's not even like I was going to say earlier, right? In certain congregations, this has happened to where multiple brothers have reached out to me about this in the past. There's multiple congregations or many different people in congregations where they'll say they'll have certain rules, right? Obviously the Bible is like their rule book as it should be, but they don't enforce the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So when you don't enforce certain rules, it's nothing but disorder. All,
Man,
all hell is going to break loose.
man, for real.
And this has happened in many different groups or congregations or circles, even if they don't, have a specific name on their groups, stuff like that. If you don't have somebody enforcing rules and checking people, especially when it comes to courting and things of that nature, right, then all hell will break loose. And one example of that, as I'm looking at these, I have some Native American pictures hanging on the wall. One example of that is in the United States, when all the conquistadors and all the um man, I always have trouble with that word in English. What, conquerors, I guess.
Yeah, you can
The
say it.
Europeans, when they came over here, right? They made so many treaties with the Native Americans, right? And the treaties were like, okay, y'all be peaceful and don't kill people, and we won't kill y'all, basically. And the United States broke every single treaty they made with them, right?
Yep.
But besides that point, the excuse that they used was when people came over here, it wasn't just like British people or people from England, right, that spoke English. It was Irish people. It was people from Switzerland. It was for people from all around. They didn't speak the same language, right? So when they came over here and they all migrated to the west, the Oregon Trail, right? These people didn't understand the law of the land. They didn't understand the treaties, etc. So because of that, like, you think they were really, if they have the laws written in English and they come over here, okay, the laws are this, dealing with natives or whatever the case may be, you can't steal their land, you can't this, that, and the other. They tell them this, or supposedly they told these people as they were coming in and then migrating, but they weren't enforcing the laws whatsoever because it was impossible to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening was a lot of people started fighting. Obviously, the natives trying to protect their land and their way of life. But the point is, they weren't enforcing the laws. And that's what happens with a lot of camps and congregations is they may teach certain things, but then when certain things happen that are against the word, they don't enforce them. And then look what happens.
Yep.
Same thing happens. All hell breaks loose. And people start walking disorderly. You can get a Second Thessalonians 3 and 6. So something that I highly recommend for brothers and sisters that are of the faith, and whether you're already married or whether you're seeking to be married, or you're in the courting process, especially if you're newer to the truth, don't be afraid to reach out to people that you learn from. Or if somebody, especially if somebody claims to be your elder or your priest or whoever you see as an elder in the truth, don't be afraid to reach out to them for advice. For what's that scripture that says, "Do nothing without counsel"?
Yeah, do nothing without counsel. Once thou hast done, repent not. Since the rock, I forgot the chapter
Con.
though.
So do nothing without counsel, especially when you're newer in the truth. And I'll tell y'all, the first probably 3-4 years, anytime I had a question or I didn't have multiple scriptures on a certain issue or whatever the case was, I would reach out to a couple of brothers that I considered my elders.
Yeah.
Because you would rather, like I say all the time, the Bible has answers for everything. So if you don't have the answer, or you can't find the answer, you don't know what the answer is, then you should be able to reach out to a brother and sister. In some cases, sisters, when when it comes down to womanly duties and stuff like that, right?
Con. This is Second Thessalonians chapter 3 and verse 6. Now we command you, brethren, in the name of our Adonai Yahweh Shai,
So we command you.
that ye withdraw yourselves from every brother that walketh disorderly, and not after the tradition which he received of us.
So they commanded this. This was written to the church, right? This was a letter, and they were commanding that you withdraw yourself from every brother that walks disorderly, out of order, right? Another thing that's happened many times that I've come across and heard from multiple sisters, especially, is when they are even just talking to somebody, or even when they're married, and I talk to married couples, and certain things being done out of order. When things are done out of order, they don't just magically get put back in order.
Not at all.
Right? Normally disorder leads to more disorder. When you sow disorder, you plant disorder in the ground, more is going to come up, right? And we have to understand that that order has to come back into place only through the word. And everything that we do needs to be according to the word, to the best of our ability. Go ahead and jump down to 14.
Con. Verse 14. And if any man obey not our word by this epistle, note that man, and have no company with him, that he may be ashamed.
So if there's a man that's not following the scriptures, it's saying to do what?
It says to note him or to mark him or signify, meaning just basically be aware, like know in your mind that this person right here is the one that's doing this.
Con. And do what? Have no company with him.
Con, separate yourself.
And this is something that's happened with me at least a handful of times with certain brothers, where I'm like, look, this is what you're doing and it's out of order, and you know it is, and you haven't, you're coming back with this for the same counsel, the same advice. I'm giving you the same thing. Until you correct it, I can't have company with you, because you know that you're moving out of order and you're refusing to correct it. Nothing else that I give you or tell you or scriptures I give you is going to fix anything until you fix what's already out of order.
It's almost like they think you're just gonna come out with a magical verse that's gonna just change everything.
Calm. And what it comes down to most of the time is, a sinful man will not be reproved. He's going to find an excuse according to his own will.
Yep.
Whatever he wants to do, that's what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Go ahead and jump to Sirach 29 and 21. 29 and 21. So as far as on the other side of things, like I always say, I'm speaking more towards brothers, because that's the top of the water fountain, and everything else is going to trickle down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when we look at every single aspect, Can you hear the cat under the house?
I heard that. Yeah, I think it's that white one I saw.
It had kittens. They're both on. There's two kittens under the house.
Yeah, the whole thing on freeze to death.
So when it comes to a man being married already, it's a lot harder because there's a lot of brothers, like I said, coming into the faith now, and they're already married. And at that point, I mean, as fast as you possibly can, you're gonna have to get in order,
Yeah.
right? And obviously, you're not gonna, okay, well, let me divorce you until I get in order, and then if once I do, we'll get back to get. There's nothing like that. That's gonna happen. But for you brothers, especially newer brothers in the truth, in the faith, it seems like for a lot of them, the first thing they want to do is find a wife.
I was guilty of that myself.
And when you do that, you're wasting your time, your energy, your money, your attention, your focus.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, your discipline.
Everything.
Everything is going into that should be going into getting yourself right with the Most High and um, physically as well, right? Because think about it this way. Me and my rib were talking about this yesterday, I believe. How many men are so out of shape that if their woman's purse got snatched and the dude ran up the stairs, what if you can't even run up the stairs to get it? How many people, men or women, right? I saw a video. I was gonna post it the other day. Um, it was a woman. She's in a parking lot and it's on a downhill, and she puts her stroller next to the car, and she opens up the car door, and the stroller starts taking off down the hill. So she starts running after it, but she's a big girl, right? And she just falls down, boom, like she like belly flops. It looks like she hits her face on the cement. She tries to get back up, and her legs just give out, and she falls again. And then another man comes to like run after the baby and kind of help her, right? But as a man, that was a woman, but as a man, you should be at least physically fit enough to protect your woman. I'm not saying you got to be all UFC fighter and stuff like that, but you should be in decent shape, whether some boxing or wrestling or jiu-jitsu or MMA or Muay Thai, whatever the case may be, something, or you know how to use a gun really good. Some type of
It works too.
self-defense,
Yep.
some type of self-defense to protect your woman, right? And some people say that's carnal, but if you look all throughout the scriptures,
Mm-hmm.
how men physically protected their families, or like we were reading the other day in Genesis 14 and 14, where Lot's son got kidnapped amongst other people, and Abraham got his servants, and they physically went. It says 300 trained servants, and Abraham went
Yep.
and chased these people down, and they got the people that were kidnapped back. They didn't call the police.
Handled it
They went and
themselves.
did it themselves, right? So that's just one example. But
David had to go take his 2 wives back that got kidnapped.
he had to save his wives. Yeah, and
Yep.
there's so many examples of that happening all throughout the scriptures, where men physically had to protect or save their family. And I know of somebody back in the day who he was questioned because he had I don't know if he still does, but he had multiple wives in multiple cities, and somebody said, well, if you're all the way over here and one of your ribs is over 1,000 miles away, like, and if Jacob's trouble pops up, like, who's gonna protect her? And he was like, well, the Most High protects mine. And I understand where you're coming from. We all should trust in the Most High, but we're also supposed to provide our wife, our children, or wives like that, brother,
Yep.
safety, protection. There's certain things by law we have to provide for them.
Yes, you do.
And it even says in the law that when you get married, the whole first year, a man is not supposed to be charged with war or work, meaning he's not supposed to leave for extended periods of time the whole first year,
Yep.
because he's supposed to be there with his wife. Because you're setting yourself up for failure if, okay, we're married, okay, you know what, I got to go work for a month, I'll be back. That's literally setting yourself up for failure. That's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be your head, your cover, but I'm gonna take off. Right? And I remember one time following Yeshua had said something along the lines of, and I've used that example as well. Like, okay, so you're in the rain, and let's say a woman's in the rain, and the husband is the umbrella. If the umbrella is 2 cities or 2 states away, is she gonna get rained on? Of course she's gonna get rained on. She doesn't have her covering there to protect her. So when you use that example physically and spiritually and mentally, because just like Eve was deceived by another man, that was all mental. He didn't physically say, look what this can do, and you'll be like this, look, check it out, and you can do this, and you have all this power. He just talked to her, right? So there's a lot of things that we have to be able to provide as men.
Time. This is Sirach chapter 29 and verse 21. The chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame.
So the chief things, the most important things in life is the first two. It says water and bread. And like I've said many times before, again, polysemy is all throughout the Bible, meaning a verse or a word or a saying or a precept or a law can have multiple meanings and still be true.
Mm-hmm.
So when it says the chief thing for life is water and bread, obviously you need to drink physical H2O water in order to live.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously need to be able to eat bread, food, in order to live, but also you need the living waters, which is the word. You
Mm-hmm.
also need the bread of life, which is the word. And as a man, you got to be able to provide all four of these things, the physical and the spiritual water and bread, to a woman. And if you can't, then you shouldn't be married. If you're already married, you got to get on it quick,
You more held accountable.
for sure. And if you're not married, then you shouldn't even be thinking about getting married until you can provide these things. But go ahead.
Says better is the life.
So like if you can read 21
Oh,
again.
kind. The chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame.
So if you don't have water, bread, clothing in a house, so again, that can be seen as polygamy. Clothing, a woman needs to be covered. A house, a woman needs to be covered again.
There you go.
Okay, in both ways, spiritually and also physically, needs to be covered. So if you can't provide all these things indefinitely for a woman, then you shouldn't even be looking for a woman. You should be looking to get yourself in order first, right? Go ahead and read it one more time.
Kind. The chief thing for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame.
And a house to cover shame. So that's a very important one, because I know of multiple brothers in the past that have asked either this exact question, do you think it's bad or do you think it's lawful to live with either her parents, my parents, her aunt, my uncle, her brother, my sister, etc., right? This says that you should have a house to cover shame. Your marriage is not going to be all butterflies and roses 144% of the time, especially when you're first getting married.
Well,
And I and Salakia,
gotta work out the kinks.
work out the kinks, right? You're gonna go through a phase. Most people, anyways, go through a phase what they call the honeymoon phase. So it's like the first couple weeks. Sometimes it's a few months where you're still in that lovey-dovey dream world type of phase where nothing can go wrong and everything's perfect. But then there's gonna come a point in time, especially if you didn't court properly and in person,
Hmm.
where some type of issue, some type of disagreement, or something like that is going to arise. and then you're going to have to deal with it. And a lot of times the woman is going to get emotional, which is understandable, but in most cases unacceptable.
God.
So do you really want to be dealing with that type of issue in somebody else's house or with other people
Mm.
watching and talking and criticizing however y'all handled the situation? Because that's one thing I guarantee you, anybody who's trying to follow the word, anybody who has family members on the man's side or on the woman's side, if you tell them you're trying to follow the Bible, they are just waiting for that moment
Yeah.
where they can, oh well, yeah, they say they follow the Bible, but then she did this or she said this or he acted like that, or yeah, they're arguing about this or this happened. I guarantee you they're just waiting for that moment, because whether you realize it or not, good is set against evil, right? And the sinner against the godly. If you want to get that, I think it's in Sirach 33,
Mm.
33 and 14 or 15. So the point that I was making though is in Sirach 29 and 21, it says the chief things for life is water and bread and clothing and a house to cover shame. There's going to be certain times where it's going to bring shame to you if you're in somebody else's house or somebody else's in your house, or you're sharing a house, and something arises that you, like the brother said, you have to work out the kinks.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be working out the kinks with a bunch of eyes on you and a bunch of criticism that that criticism is not going to be biblical in most cases.
And in Genesis, which is part of the Torah, it does say man's supposed to leave father and mother and cleave to the wife. So that means that he wasn't in somebody else's house.
Con, I actually got that right now. It's Genesis 2:24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. So when you look at this verse, and I remember for a brother, when I married a brother and sister together, I was like I signed the papers as what they call in Texas a minister. I explained this verse before they got married at the little ceremony. And you have to understand, it says it in this way for a reason. It says, therefore shall a man leave his father and mother.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving the father and mother represents growing up. It represents responsibility. All the responsibility is now on you. You are leaving your father and mother, and that is you growing up and getting out of their house. Because we all know somebody who's 18, 21, 25, 30, 40 years old and still lives with their mom or dad or parent, and they're still not taking care of themselves completely.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
This is Sirach chapter 33 and verse 14. The good is set against evil, and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly.
So it says, just like life is set against death, it's the opposite, right? You can't be alive and dead at the same time, spiritually or physically. You can't be good and evil at the same time. That's why Yahushua said a good tree cannot bring forth corrupt fruit.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be both at the same time. So it says, just like that, the godly is set against the sinner. So going back to what was it, Sirach 29,
Yeah.
where it said you need a house to cover shame, a huge problem over the years that I've seen, and all praise to the Most High ever since I've been in the truth, man. That never. I remember when years ago, man. It was probably, so we're going on 7 years in the truth. It must have been 8 or 9 years ago. Um, Me and my rib had to temporarily just go stay at my mom's while what had happened was our lease was up and we had to wait a couple of weeks to move into another place. And man, not even 2 weeks at my mom's house, and I was like, man, asking the Most High, like, and at that time, I wasn't even in the truth, but you're praying like, this is never going to happen again. I'm gonna make sure this never happens again.
For sure that.
And I'm sure many of you, brothers or sisters, either on right now or later on, you're gonna hear this, and you've been in that position, and you know exactly how it is. The godly is set against the sinner, and people that aren't in the truth are gonna do everything to spiritually push your buttons. They're gonna do everything to get in between you and your rib, or you and your husband.
And if I might add, most of the time, some of the times, it's in the most subtle ways too. Because I remember I had I'll give y'all an example. It wasn't like I wasn't married yet, but I'm gonna just give y'all the example of being in the house with somebody that's obviously not following the word, because you can take away from it. If you look at the example of what happened to Eve, right, when the devil came to her, he didn't necessarily lie to her, but he manipulated everything and caused her to get confused, which enticed her to do something she wasn't supposed to do. Now, I was in a situation one time where I was in a house with somebody who didn't follow the word. And the thing about it is, there will be subtle things that he would do that would try to get me to like break Sabbath or eat the wrong type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? To entice me based on some things that I was interested in. You know what I'm saying? We used to play basketball all the time and stuff like that, right? And then I might be reading, and as soon as I just start reading, all of a sudden he called the homies over and like, "Hey, you want to come hoop with us?" And everybody trying to
Yo, I
entice me.
just ball up.
You feel what I'm saying? And all type of stuff. He'll start smoking weed and try to offer it to me and stuff like that. So I'm just like, hey, you know, the point being though is that sometimes it's in subtle ways though. So what the brother, what he's saying, if you in somebody else's house, it's definitely gonna happen. It's a guaranteed fact that it's gonna happen in one way or another, whether it's open or whether it's subtle.
Con. And especially in the times that we're in, going along with this verse, if you could actually read it one more time, and then I'll get this precept.
Con. It says the chief. Oh, I'm sorry. 30,
Con
33.
33:14.
Con. Sirach 33 and 14. Good is set against evil, and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly.
So in the times that we're living in right now, the word is setting people against other people. And this is Matthew 10:35. This is red letter, so this is Yahushua speaking, right? He said, "For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I could speak from experience, just saying this brother knows because he was here to witness it. The last sister that I was going to court, her mom was at variance with her, and she basically ruined the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard of many brothers reach out to me over the years saying when they're already married, and it's like, it's my mother-in-law, bro, like she this and that, or she put this in her head and now she's saying this or she's thinking that. This is why you have to be willing to cut off people that the scriptures say are at variance with us. They're against us. They're set against us, like it says in Sirach 33:14. The godly is set against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. Right? And that's why people don't understand that one of the biggest questions you should also ask, but also you're gonna have to prove, is if that person, whoever you're going to be courting or eventually marrying, if they're able to cut off all evil communications. If you want to get that in 1 Corinthians 15:33. If they're willing to, if they're able and willing to, because a lot of people say they're willing to do something, but they're just not able to. It's like they just keep pulling. It's like, well, they called me and I didn't want to be rude, so I had to answer. Or, they texted me 3 times and they're worried about me, so I had to. Go ahead.
This is First Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners.
Don't deceive yourself. Don't trick yourself. Evil communications corrupt good manners. And if you look at that, I forgot the word in the blue letter in the Greek. That word manners can also mean dwelling place or your temple. So it can corrupt your temple. How can it corrupt? So think about it. If our body, our vessel is our temple, and just evil communications, communicating with somebody who is evil, can corrupt your temple. How can that happen? By them, the spirit that's on them getting on you, and now you're out of the spirit. And I'll give you an example. The easiest thing, you talk to somebody, let's say you're trying to follow the word as a sister or as a brother, and you're trying to follow the word, they know it, and then they kind of know how to push your buttons already. Let's say you're talking to your mom or your dad or a brother, blood brother or sister, and they kind of know how to push your buttons because they grew up with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you were raised under them or whatever the case may be. And you could be feeling so good in the spirit, you're completely at peace. Could you get a Exodus 14:14? You're completely at peace, and they say one thing, and now you're pissed off on the inside. Or now your peace is completely gone, right? And I can admit, I'll be the first to admit, when I was first coming into the truth, that's how I was. I would be feeling good. Yeah, I'm not eating pork. I got my fringes on. I'm this, that, and the other. And then, a family member invites me to Christmas or Easter or one of those things. Oh, why don't you come? We're going to do this, that, or the other. And then I'm like, oh, no, we don't celebrate it. What are you talking about? Like, that's not, come on, Christ was born on Christmas. I thought you believed the Bible. And then I would be pissed off, right? Because it gets you out the spirit when you don't know how to rule your spirit yet.
Yeah, for real, real quick.
But the point is, you have to be able to discern these things. And I'm not saying, like for the newer brothers and sisters, right? Because I know a lot of brothers and sisters are coming into the faith in these last days. When you're newer, you're gonna go through experiences like that. You have to experience things like that at least one time, in my opinion.
It teaches you about yourself.
It teaches you about yourself, and it also teaches you how to deal with people, because I could tell you 50,000 times about a story like that, and you'll understand it,
Yeah.
right? So there's a level. Let's say there's a
Knowledge.
I know a sister, um her name, I think her real name's Evelyn, and she does high jump in college, right?
Huh.
Okay, let's say she's trying to jump over the 5 foot mark.
That shit dog, bro.
Okay, now if you go under that, did you do it successfully?
Nah, if you go under, no.
No. So most people understand through speech. They don't have a high enough understanding or overstanding.
Mm-hmm.
So once you go through it, and the Most High calls Israelites hard headed all throughout the Bible, most of us have to go through it ourselves in order to understand it. Like, man, I went through this. Now I really, on the inside, I felt how that felt. I know when I deal with people like that,
Mm-hmm.
that type of evil communications, it is going to corrupt my good manners. Or, like I said in the Greek, I forgot the word escapes me right now, but that word manners actually means dwelling place. So your temple is going to corrupt your temple, and now you're not at peace no more.
Exactly.
So once that happens, now you have a good understanding of it because you felt it yourself. And now, if you're not hard headed and stiff necked, you're not going to continue to do it and repeat the same mistake over and over and over.
This is Exodus chapter 14 and verse 14. Yahweh shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace.
Khan. So Yahweh will fight for you and you will hold your peace. So now, a lot of people would just read this or post this or quote it, and it sounds real nice when people quote Bible verses, right? But you have to have a good understanding of it and know that, is the Most High going to be fighting my battles for me if I'm being wicked?
Nah.
Is the Most High going to be fighting my battles for me if I'm not listening to his advice and doing what he says to do?
Oh.
Of course not. That's like if I tell my son, "Hey, don't go over there. Those 5 chickens over there, man. They're vicious. They're gonna peck you." And he goes over there and he doesn't listen, and they start pecking his legs, and he freaks out. I'm gonna start laughing.
Totally.
I'm gonna be like, "Get away from him." He wouldn't freak out, right? But just giving an example. The point is, the Most High is gonna let you reap what you sow. So if you want him to fight your battles for you, you're going to have to do what he says to do. A good example of that would be back when we first came, me and my rib first came into the truth, again, over 6 years ago, we would learn or hear about people in her family saying certain things. And she would feel the need to go and, "That's not true," or, "Why are you saying this behind her back? Why this, that, and the other?" And what does that do? That only leads to her losing her peace,
Yeah.
right? So instead, you hold your peace. You know what? It's not true anyways. I don't care. I don't care what they say. Misery loves company. They're miserable and they're trying to this, that, and the other. So I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna keep my peace. I'm not even gonna deal with it. Not even gonna um I'm not even gonna act like that happened or like that has um any effect on my life, because it's not going to if you choose not to let it, right?
Con.
And I remember one of my cousins had told me a long time ago, before the truth. He was like, "Never worry about what people say about you. It's not going to affect you paying your bills or getting money or anything like that."
Yeah.
You look at that spiritually. Like, what effect is somebody going to have on you by talking bad about you if it's not true? It's not going to have any effect on you, right? And even when people, um, the word says curse you, right? But when people wish bad on you, but the in Proverbs it says the curse causeless shall not come. So we get cursed for not following the word. So it doesn't matter how many people or sincerely want bad to come upon you, or they could even do like down here in South Texas, because it's a lot of so-called Hispanics. They do like brujeria, which is like witchcraft and stuff. They'll try to put curses or hexes on you and stuff like that. The only way that's gonna come is if it's because you deserve it, and the Most High allows that type of thing to happen, right? But getting back to the point, like it says in 1 Corinthians 15 and 33, evil communications corrupt good manners. So you have to ask that person, okay, are you willing to give up? Okay, who in your family has, tried to take you away from the truth the most? Oh, really? Okay. So are you willing to cut ties with them? Okay, but what about friends? Have they led you astray? Have they drawn you away from the Most High? Have they led you to go against the commandments? Okay, are you willing to cut communications with them? And a lot of times it's gonna be, well, if it's not yay or nay, right? Like how should I said, let your yay be yay or your nay be nay.
Yep.
Anything more than that comes of evil.
Yeah.
You could get Sirach 37 and 12. Let me look at the comments real quick.
Con.
Shaul Yisrael, Shalom. Mariceli Selena Urenia, Shalom. Amanaka Dash. Martin Kayla Anderson, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. Shabbat Shalom if y'all are keeping the Sabbath. Ma- Messiah said to Luke, "Let the dead bury their dead," when he tried to bury his father. You got to follow the Messiah. Khan. And again, that's polysemy, right? That's polysemy. Polysemy meaning it can mean more than one thing and still be true. He literally said, "Hey Luke, yeah, I know he's dead, but let these other people bury him." But if you think about it spiritually, there's people that are spiritually dead and they are not coming back from it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not saying people can't repent, but we know that the path is narrow that leads to life, and the path that is broad that leads to death, and the majority are on the path to death, and they're not going to get off that path.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone consistently shows you with actions, with their fruits, right? Like it says in Matthew 7, you know a tree by its fruits, you know a man by his actions. When they are showing you that they have dead works, and that's why in, what is it, Hebrews 6, I believe, where it says repentance of dead works. Let us move on unto perfection, not
Yeah.
laying again the foundation. Repentance
Repentance
of
of dead
dead
works,
works.
doctrine of the
So
baptism.
that's the first one, that you got to repent of those dead works. And when people are not repenting of those dead works, which is they don't want to follow the commandments, right? They, if they ain't following the commandments, they're living in dead works, which is not living at all.
Uh,
The word is a lifestyle, and everything else is a death style. Even though they're alive physically, most people are spiritually dead. So we
mm-hmm.
have to, in most cases, it's just like the scriptures say multiple times, if a man be ignorant, let him be ignorant. If a man is filthy, let him be filthy. You should know, if you've been in the truth for any amount of time, more than a few months or a year maybe, you should know or be able to discern when somebody is not going to be receptive of truth to the point where they're going to actually apply it.
Uh,
Because once you tell them the basics, the basics as far as like pork and shrimp and Sabbath, that's probably what people learn at first, right?
Basics, yeah.
If you can't even start doing that for men, hey, just don't shave your beard. Like that's the easiest law to keep. If people can't repent of the smaller things like that, how do you think they're going to get to the meat? You first have to be able to digest the milk, right? So that's a good precept, right? Let the dead bury their dead. A lot of times, it's sad in a lot of cases, people you cared about in the world and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if Messiah said, hey, follow me, which he's the word, anytime somebody's trying to lead you astray from following the word, guess what? You got to choose the word.
Uh, it says Sirach 39.
37 and 12, I believe.
Oh, Sirach 37 and 12.
Time.
Con, this is Sirach chapter 37 and verse 12. But be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Most High, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry.
So this is another great. I believe I did a video probably a couple years ago, just a short, like minute, 2 minute video on Instagram about this. And somebody had asked, a sister had asked about courting, right? It says, be continually with a godly man. How
Mm-hmm.
do I know if he's a godly man? I mean, he says he's godly. He's been with this camp for this many years. It says, who you know to keep the commandments. It doesn't say, be with the man who says he keeps the commandments and says he's godly or is part of a congregation or says he's an Israelite. It says someone who you know keeps the commandments. Again, there's no way for you to know that a man or a woman keeps the commandments unless you see them keep the commandments.
In person.
Because you're testing and trying somebody in person. And that's why it's funny, because with social media, even before the truth, again, going back to martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
there would always be people. When I was a coach at it was like the biggest MMA gym in the area. At that time, there was no other MMA gyms for probably like an hour and a half. And we're the only one in what they call the Valley, South Texas, that had a cage. So a bunch of people wanted to train there. And long story short, on the Facebook page, you would always have people, I'm this and I'm that, and I'll go train there. Oh man, sometimes our coach or people would post videos and stuff like that, and oh man, y'all don't know what you're doing. I would this and that and the other. And it's like, all right, well then come over here and you
Show
could
me.
prove to us that what you're saying is true, right? And the majority of the time, people wouldn't show up, but the ones that would, the majority of the time, it wasn't true. They couldn't prove what they were saying. But using that as an example, as a parable, Like in Greek, the word is parabole for parable. That it literally means something alongside something else. You put those two alongside each other, it's the exact same thing. A lot of people talk a very good game, or they show a very good game on social media, but then in real life, it's not like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? In real life, it's not so. And I say this because over the years, there'll be certain brothers that I talk to and stuff, and then you look at their page and you're like, oh damn, like this brother seems mighty for the Most High, right? And then somebody else, hey, this happened or whatever. This brother, um, offended me, or this brother did this against me, blah blah. And I'll be like, okay, well, let's get me, you, and this brother get on the phone, or a sister. Oh, hey, this happened, and I was talking to this brother, courting with this brother, or whatever. Okay, let's get him on the phone. Who is it? And then what? It was that brother,
Like him?
and then
Man.
and you would never expect it,
For
right?
real, bro.
So when things like that happen, it should show you that not everybody is who they say they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that could pertain to anything, not even just the faith or the truth. A lot of people show that they have a lot of money, or and then that was just their check, and now they spent it all on their bills and they're broke. Or some people will be posting themselves in cars, and guess what? It was a rental. Or people will be posting themselves with a bunch of chains, and they're all fake. And it goes on and on and on and on.
Uh-huh.
So the point is, going back to the first couple of verses that we brought out, First John 4:1, it says that you have to try the spirit to see if they're of the Most High. First Thessalonians 5:21, you have to prove all things, not believe all things, not ask them or hear their words on take their word for it on all things.
Test them.
Prove all things. And then here it says, be continually with a godly man who you know to keep the commandments. You want to read that one more time?
Time. But be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Most High, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry.
And will sorrow with you if you miscarry. That means if you go off from the scriptures, they're going to be just as mad about it as you are. They're going to try to get you, when you fall off the horse, so to speak, they're going to try and get you back up on it, just like you want to get back up on it. And in reality, there's a lot of I won't even say brothers, but men that claim to be of the faith that crept in unaware, like the scriptures say.
So many of them, though, a lot.
Right? So I'm gonna get it real quick. Jude 1,
I think 8 or 6.
1 and 4.
Oh,
Jude 1 and 4. It says, for there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation. There are men like this set up to try and get people to go off,
mm-hmm.
to try to test and to prove you, right? Just like in the gym that I used to coach at, right? There was a couple guys that, not sound mean or nothing, but they weren't that good, but they were blue belts, and it's like, okay, when someone's a white belt and they're getting ready to get a blue belt, we're gonna put them with the blue belts that aren't that good, just to test them out and see how good they are. To really prove, like, okay, should they be a blue belt? Let's get the worst blue belts we have and put them with the white belts. And if the white belts can't at least survive or do decent against these bad blue belts, then they're not ready for it. Right. So that's what some of these men are set up to do. They're set up to test you. And the same thing on the other hand, there's certain women that are to test brothers, right? And a lot of them, it's crazy because a lot of brothers, I don't know how you can't tell. There's so many scriptures that warn you. I was just talking to AZL about this yesterday on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
The scriptures warn you, brothers, so many times of women Way more than it tells you, it warns you about men.
That's true.
Because women are most men's downfall. It
Yeah.
tells you, look out for them haughty eyes.
Yeah.
It tells you Jezebel had her face caked up.
Watch out for them sweet words and game.
It tells you that if you know somebody by their fruits, right, or by what does it say, by their gait,
Yeah.
by the way they're dressed, even
Yeah.
look at a woman by her lasciviousness. You
Mm-hmm.
should know what type of woman she is. But brothers just, I think a lot of times what it is brothers think they can change women.
That is very true. I don't know why that's a big thing, but it's almost as if people it's almost like a weakness, man. It's almost like a drug.
It is a weakness.
Yeah, it's like a big drug that's been going around. It's just like, people are so caught up in the idea of being fascinated with what they see. They're just like, man, I hope I can just change her so that way I can, make that mine. It's many things that go into it. I feel like it's more than just one thing, but yeah.
Yeah, and I like that you said it's a weakness because it says not to give your power to a woman. If you lose strength, you lose power. You're weaker, right?
Hmm.
But getting back to this verse, Jude 1:4, it says, "For there are certain men crept in unawares who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness." Okay? If you know anything about lasciviousness, it is using something physically or lustfully attractive in order to get power, in order to get sex,
Hmm.
in order to get anything that you're trying to get. And a lot of women use lasciviousness to their power as well, right? Well, what's the brother's name? He had just posted something about it. I know you know that brother. Is it something Alston?
Yeah, I knew that you talking about Uzziah.
Yeah. I think it's Uzziah, right?
Yeah, I had talked to him earlier today.
He said, let me get it real quick.
Uzziah or Uzziah, however you say it. I don't want to butcher it.
Khan. He said, "There's a reason the Most High says beauty is vain. A lot of women use their beauty in the wrong ways to flaunt and show off their curves, breast, ass, etc. In all reality, all you're doing is drawing the wrong attention towards yourself. It shows that you also have no respect for yourself." So this is why, and he goes on and on, right? But that's why in Proverbs 31:30 it says that favor is deceitful, beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Most High shall be praised.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman that fears the Most High isn't going to be showing all her breasts and thighs and all this type of stuff,
Not at all.
right? And from experience, um, I've learned, at least in more than a few cases, some of the most sincere sisters that I have come across are the ones that don't post themselves,
At all, bro. You might get one picture and that's it. And
or
if
or
that.
or they don't have a bunch of followers. They
Yeah.
don't follow a bunch of people. Their profiles are private because they don't want to attract attention to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, that's from what I've seen, at least, because, and you could tell a sister is in the right spirit in that type of sense, or in that case, because one of the most overlooked things, and I was telling my rib not too long ago, I definitely want to do a lesson on, is discretion for women, because women are not discreet in any most women are not discreet in any sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
Commenting in a bunch of people's uh, uh posts, trying to start arguments, trying to correct men, trying to teach the word. None of that is discreet.
My rib even said something about that a while back. She was like, it's bad when you see a woman everywhere. That's how she worded it. Like on social media, you see her everywhere, but in the sense of what the brother's saying, she under everybody comments and everybody likes.
Con, could you get First Timothy 5:14?
Mm-hmm.
And that's another for you brothers, right? That's another, I would say, red flag as far as sisters go. If she's always posting herself, but she claims her life's about the Most High, but her profile is nothing but selfies. Like, how does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If she's posting to where you could see all her curves, she's posting from her backside, or the more subtle way, they do the little side view, so you don't see the whole backside,
Just
but
give a little glimpse of
you
it.
can see the lump, right? Or they do the top side picture. They'll go from up high, so they look skinnier, but you can also see their breasts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. 13.
You can start on 13.
Busybodies. This is First Timothy chapter 5, verse 13. And withal they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house.
So this is talking about young women. They learn to be idle. Idle.
Mm-hmm.
Idleness teacheth much evil, is what it says in Sirach. Idleness teaches much evil. It says most women, and especially in this day and age, most women have learned to be idle. So a lot of, or what I've heard an excuse of from women, a lot of women in the past is, well, I'm not married, or I'm not married, so I don't have to, do too much. But if you really want to be married or covered, you should be learning how to cook, how to any type of skills that could benefit you. I'm not going to go into all of them, but any type of skills that could benefit you, your husband, your children, whether it be sewing, whether it be cooking, whether it be any type of skills, um, is better than just being idle on your phone all day, watching Netflix all day, or like it said, going from house to house all day. Now, some sisters literally do that. They'll go hang out with, oh yeah, I was at her house, and then I went over here, and then we went to the mall, and then we went to the movies, and then we went out and ate at that restaurant, then we went and drank, then we're at the hookah lounge, right? You even got camp leaders that hang out in clubs and hookah lounges now, and you also have them that do it more subtly again through social media,
Yep.
right? They're going house to house. Oh, hey sister, how you doing? Oh yeah. Oh, really? You're having problems with your husband? Oh man, that yeah, I know this other sister had same type of issue and this, and then they go to someone else. Oh yeah, how you? And they're going house to house to
Let me go
house,
ahead and put my cape on real quick.
going house to house to house to house, and they're not even leaving their house.
Mm-mm-mm. And not only idle, but tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not.
And they're tattlers also, and they're telling everybody's business. That's something else to look out for with sisters. Oh yeah, yeah, this sister this, or that brother this, and they're speaking things they shouldn't. And a lot of times they were told in confidence certain things, and then they go and tell the next sister, or they go and
Mm-hmm.
tell the next brother, or they tell a group of sisters.
I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully.
So the Most High said, I will therefore that the younger women marry. Why should they get married? Because where no hedges, there the possession is spoiled.
Con.
The
And in Genesis, the Most High said your desire is going to be to your husband, so you're supposed to be married.
come and your desire should be to be married and to have children, because what else is there better in life than to be married, to be on one accord with somebody serving the Most High, and to do the one thing that me, this brother, no other brother has the power to do. We cannot bring, even though, like I said earlier, the man has the higher authority in the household, in the family, in the marriage. There's one thing we can't do, and you have more authority or power to do as a woman, and that's bring a soul or souls into this world. That's crazy to me. Like, think about it.
That's beautiful.
The man carries the seed, but then the woman, it has to be through the woman that they're like, was it you that said that the other day, or was it somebody else that said that they're like a portal,
Oh, that was me.
kind of like a portal, like a portal for souls.
Literally.
A man cannot do that. And if you think about it, I had posted it a long time ago too. Like, as a woman, when you get as you get older, Like, what do you have in life if you're not married and you don't have children? You're gonna get to that age where you're gonna get well, for most women, right? Some of them are just so far gone that they don't care. You're gonna get to the point where, going out and partying and hanging out with the girls and doing all the some of them hanging out with the guys,
Mm.
and doing all these other things is gonna get boring. And then you're gonna realize, damn, I'm alone. And then you're gonna realize, man, I have no real family to call my own.
And don't nobody want you now.
And then once you're up at that age, right, it's like, and that's why it's crazy because I was talking to this, well, he's not a brother, but somebody that I was cool with in high school. It's crazy that for a lot of people the case is, as the men, well, for some people, right, men that take care of themselves, and like what, two couple posts back where I was saying consistency, hard work, and improving yourself as a man. A lot of men, as they get older, they're like wine, right? The older it gets, the older they get, they look better, they're healthier, they're smarter, their finances are more in order, they become more valuable, right? Whereas women, it's the opposite. When you're younger, you have your youth and you have your beauty, and that's why, again, why it says in Proverbs 31:30, it says beauty is vain,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your beauty is supposed to, your beauty and your youth, that's something else I posted a long time ago, a couple times. Your beauty and your youth is supposed to be used to get the best possible husband you can. But instead, what do women waste it? They let a bunch of little boys run through them,
Uh-huh.
and then by the time their beauty is starting to fade, or it's gone, or by the time they got a baby or a couple babies by a couple different baby daddies, then they want to settle down,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's too late. Now people will use you for what you've now become known for being used as, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of something else I posted multiple times. A lot of I won't even say sisters, but a lot of females, they want to be a wife, but this whole time, you're talking about years, they've been treated and been fine with being treated as a concubine. Because when you look into the definition of a concubine is like a lesser wife.
Mm-hmm.
She's basically a wife with less rights.
Yep.
So she's basically used to have children and to have sex.
That's it.
And the husband, or the man, can provide for her, but according to the law, right, it doesn't say that you have to, because she's a concubine. She's
Yep.
not an actual wife. So when going back to the point of it, right, is, as a man, as you get older, you should be increasing in value, right? You should be like what's the dude's name in Baby Boy, the dad? Melvin.
Yeah, Melvin.
Melvin. Melvin. He said it's like the stocks and the bonds,
Yep.
right? The land, the stuff that appreciates with value.
Yep.
If you go to any type of culture, men that are on, I mean, I have no other way of putting it, right? So lucky for the language to those y'all if offensive, but some men that are on their shit, like men that are serious about improving themselves in every way, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, everything, they're going to get better and better. Whereas women seem to decrease because a woman is mostly, for the most part, in the world at least, is chosen based off of her beauty.
That's very true.
And I'm not saying that's the way it's supposed to be,
It's the reality, though.
but that, realistically looking at it, that is the way that it is. So again, going back to what I was saying, is that as a younger sister especially, you should be using your beauty, right? Beauty, it says beauty is vain, but if
Mm-hmm.
you fear the Most High and you're following after him, your beauty is not vain, because you can use it to your benefit if you're moving off of wisdom
Mm-hmm.
to get the best possible husband that you can.
It's almost like putting the bait on the fish hook. The beauty is just to catch his attention. Everything else from that point, like your character, that's what's going to determine if a real, and I say this intentionally, a real godly man, that's going to determine if he wants you or not.
Con. Could you get Exodus 21:10?
He got to see if you a
Baba Shah.
lawful fish or not.
Con. And it's funny because this is, as we're talking about this, it's just reminded me of so many different over the years, right? Because this is already like I think my third page that I had since I came in the truth of the post that I made. And I don't know if you remember that post. It was like the chick saying like oh man, men don't even want to be husbands or providers anymore.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he was like, men provide for assets, not liabilities.
Yep, that was one. Yeah, absolutely. I ain't finna provide for you if you gonna sit here and just drain me.
Con.
Ain't bring nothing to the table. It's Exodus chapter 21, verse 10. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage, shall he not diminish?
Con. So this is talking about a wife. It says specifically a wife. So according to the law, what are the three things that a man has to provide?
A man has to provide food, clothing or raiment, and duty of marriage, which is conjugal rights.
Con. So as a wife, you have rights to the necessities of life. Okay, food, which again, this is polygamy again.
Mm-hmm.
Food, hey, if he's got to feed me according to the law, right? Spiritually and physically. Raiment, which is clothing, but it's also a covering. He's got to cover you according to the law. Man, I saw what you know that dude. I forgot his name, but the one from that Las Vegas tactical.
Yeah,
Did
yeah,
you see
yeah.
the video that he posted with the chick that said she divorced her husband because he wouldn't protect her when she was getting beat up?
No, I ain't see that shit.
So something had happened. I don't remember exactly what she said. It was like probably yesterday or the day before. He was training her. Someone attacked her, and her now ex-husband didn't defend her,
That's soft.
and that led up to them ending up getting divorced. But she was there training and stuff to learn how to defend herself.
That's completely understandable.
According to the law,
Yeah.
according to the law, you are supposed to be a covering to your woman, which again goes back to I know some or maybe even a lot of brothers say, man, well that's physically doing the preparing or knowing how to fight or how to use a gun or whatever the case may be. That's that is so unspiritual. That is so carnal. But again, you look throughout the scriptures, how many men, like we gave the examples earlier, Abraham and David, and there's many others
In the Torah.
that physically protected their families,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these three things, and then conjugal rights, right, which is having sex. Because what good would it be for a woman to get a husband and then he's not even providing for her sexually,
Can't get it up.
right? And the same goes for a man, right? And that's why Paul said in 1 Corinthians 7:2, get it real quick. It says 1 Corinthians 7:2. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Why? To avoid fornication. So if you're not even providing conjugal rights to your woman, being able to please her sexually, what is the point of you being her husband, right? And vice versa,
Exactly.
and vice versa. And actually, this is something else. If you want to go to this real quick, um, 1 Corinthians 7. I'm gonna read this too because this is also something that should be talked about in the courting phase. As far as even though it's not gonna happen until you are married.
Verse 4.
Yeah, Con.
Okay, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 4. The wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband. And likewise, also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. Defraud you not one the other, except it be with consent for a time.
Okay, pause right there. So now some people I've heard brothers, and let me tell you, bro, in the past when I was first coming into the truth, GMS, I'll say the camp. You had a brother. I believe it was two different brothers. I think one learned from the other, and you know how they just regurgitate stuff. But one specific brother, I remember the way he was saying it was like, you see, the Most High tells you, you sisters, your body is not your own body. Whenever your man wants it, you got to give it to him. If you're not going to give it to him, he has the right to take it and all. And he went off for he was going off on the subject. And just by the spirit, you didn't even have to hear the words. Like you could turn the video off and just see the way he was talking, the spirit he was in, to know he's going off, right? But the point is, it says here the wife has not power over the body, and the husband doesn't have power over the body. What Paul meant when he was saying this, you have to read it in context. If you read verse 2, why are you getting married? To avoid fornication.
Mm-hmm.
When you look into that word fornication, in most of the times that it's referenced in the Greek, it's, do you know the word for it?
No, off the top of my head.
Porneia.
I would say pornea, but
So what does that sound like to y'all? Porn. Why did they name
porn.
Sex being recorded porn? Porneia, fornication.
Yep.
What happens to most men and to even to women, right? Because I've had sisters reach out to me and say they're struggling with watching porn because they don't have a husband. But most of the time it's from men. What's gonna happen when a woman is not giving her husband what she's supposed to as a wife? He's going to either seek outside and try and find somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
or what most men are going to do is they're going to turn to porn, and they're going to turn to beating their meat, and that's going to lead to all types of problems. Because as the first thing that happens, and this has happened many times where I've given counsel to a married couple multiple times, where it's, well, I found out, I looked through his phone. You shouldn't be looking through your husband's phone in the first place, sisters.
Yep.
But I looked through his phone, or I just so happened to come across.
Of course you did.
I was looking something up on his browser, and I noticed.
Right.
And he's been watching porn, and many times it's because, well, she wasn't giving it to me, and she said she's busy or she's not in the mood or whatever the case or the reason that's given.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand that as a man, this is part of the reason why a man is getting married and why a woman's getting married.
Yeah.
Is so that you can satisfy each other's needs sexually as well. Because the Most High, not to get graphic, but the Most High made us a certain way for a certain reason, right? There's a reason why there's certain parts of your body feel so good when your husband or wife is doing things to them or doing things to it, right? There's a reason why a man's penis has so many what are they called? Receptors?
Yeah.
Like touch receptors on the end of it. Because the Most High made it that way.
On purpose.
Sex is a gift to us, but it's only supposed to be enjoyed through marriage. So when you have a woman or a man that's defrauding the wife or defrauding the husband in marriage, it's going to lead to bad things. And that's what this is saying in verse 5, if you can read the whole thing.
Defraud you not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency.
So it's saying you shouldn't defraud each other, meaning you shouldn't be holding back sex from somebody or holding it against them. And I know probably everybody has either experienced in the world or heard or seen somebody, especially because we're Israelites, bro, and you know how women are. I don't know about you and your family and stuff, but I've seen in my family or with friends and stuff, when the woman gets mad, even if they're so-called boyfriend, girlfriend, oh yeah, well, you ain't getting none then.
Like, hold
right?
up, partner.
So if that happens in a marriage, you are defrauding your husband,
That's
or
true.
you are defrauding your wife. It says, defraud you not one the other, unless it is with consent for a time. Now, if a brother says, hey, look, you know what, I'm struggling with whatever it is. I'm struggling with laziness. And the most, Yahushua said, Matthew 17:21, the spirit only goes out by prayer and fasting. I'm gonna fast, and you know what? I'm gonna if we cannot have sex for, I don't know, 3 days. And the
Mm-hmm.
woman says, you know what? Yeah, that's cool. Maybe I'll fast with you and we'll pray together about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That is with consent for a time. And it literally says that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer. It's not just like, nah, you know what? I don't feel like it. Maybe next week. Because that's you not fulfilling your duties as a husband or a wife. And then it says, and come together again. After you fast and pray, you got to come back together again. No pun intended. Come together again.
Hey, say what it is.
That Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. Incontinency means that you lack control, or you have no self restraint when it comes to sexually,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you don't have control over yourself or no restraint of yourself sexually, and then that's what happens when a dude doesn't, his wife doesn't give him none for a month or two. I've heard some brothers, man, yeah, it's been 3 months.
Phew.
And I'm like, bro,
Whoa.
why are you married?
For real, that what y'all doing?
And you know what? In some cultures, what's his name? Brother Hondo Solomon talks about it in his book, An Introduction to Polygamy. And then also in what's the sister's name? The doctor that wrote We Want for Our Sisters.
Patricia something.
Yeah, Patricia. There's a sister that wrote a book. It's called We Want for Our Sisters What We Want for Ourselves. Women that practice polygamy by choice. I believe that's what it's called. And in both books, it talks more in depth in the sisters about when a woman would give birth in some African cultures, they aren't supposed to have sex for a whole year. So in that case, that's why some cultures, they're very very prone to polygamy, because
Mm-hmm.
the the women would realize, like, okay, well, he's either going to go out on me and possibly bring back diseases and stuff like that, or he gets another wife. I know who he's dealing with.
Yep.
We become cool. We build our house together,
Go from there.
right? But getting back to this verse, it says Satan is going to tempt you. It's telling you Satan's going to tempt you if y'all are defrauding one another. And this is also, again, I'm bringing this up because it needs to be talked about before marriage, right? You want to learn how to fight before you're in the fight.
Fine.
So if you don't talk about these types of things, and again, like I said before, there's some topics, there's no getting around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna seem kind of uncomfortable at first,
Yeah.
but through those uncomfortable situations and talks and things of that nature, you're gonna prove that somebody is mature enough. You're gonna see how they handle being put in an uncomfortable situation, right? And you only really grow when you're in an uncomfortable situation.
That's very true.
So when that happens, um, it's going to lead y'all to building up that relationship, um, and that companionship even before you're married.
Fine.
Could you get Sirach 40 and 23?
Fine.
Baba Kashaw. Sirach 40 and 3.
This is Sirach chapter 40 and verse 3. From him that sitteth on a throne of glory unto him that is humbled in earth and ashes. Is that the one you wanted?
40 and 23.
40 and 23.
Kanshalakia.
Got you. Sirach chapter 40, verse 23. A friend and companion never meet amiss, but above both is a wife with her husband.
A friend and a companion never meet amiss. It's good to have a friend, it's good to have a companion, but guess what's better than both?
Husband and wife.
A husband and wife, because they're one flesh, and when they're on one accord, there's no closer bond physically. Obviously, with the Most High, right? And you're moving in the Holy Spirit, but physically, there's no closer bond than a husband and wife, one flesh, one accord, serving the Most High together, same goal, same mission, same household being built up, etc.
Everybody doing their part.
But you can't get to this point until you're first a friend and a companion that don't meet amiss, like it says. You want to read it one more time?
Kind. A friend and companion never meet amiss, but above both is a wife with her husband.
So above both is a wife and her husband. If you can get me Sirach 6, and we'll start at verse, let me see, 5.
Kind. It says, sweet language will multiply friends, and a fair speaking tongue will increase kind greetings.
So when you have sweet language, you're gonna have more friends. You're gonna be more friendly, so you're gonna have more friends. And a fair speaking tongue, when you speak well, it's gonna increase kind greetings. People are gonna be nicer to you. And this doesn't mean though that you've proved somebody, because a lot of people have sweet language. A lot of people have fair speaking tongues, but that doesn't mean that they're actually with you spiritually, mentally, physically, any of these.
Kind. Be in peace with many, nevertheless have but one counselor of 1,000.
This is Sirach 6 and verse 6. We started at verse 5. You want to read
Kind.
that one more time?
Kind. It's Sirach chapter 6, verse 6. Be in peace with many, nevertheless have but one counselor of 1,000.
So this is something else that has to be spoken about and agreed upon, I would say, even before the courting process. Because you're in a talking phase. Then after that, because notice when we read, it said, a friend and a companion never meet amiss. That was Sirach 40:23. A friend and a companion never meet amiss, but a wife and a husband are better than both of them. So again, you have to be a friend and a companion with somebody before you even, in my understanding and opinion, before you even start the courting process. Because sometimes you'll talk to somebody and you have one, two, three conversations, and you're like, you know what, this person isn't crazy. This person's not all there. Me and this person are not gonna get along. Me and this person are gonna clash.
Yeah.
Some people you can just know right off the bat, whether it's their tone, whether it's any little thing, you should be able to pick up on it if you have discernment, right? So after the friend and companion phase, and then you go to the courting phase, and then the husband and wife phase, if it's the Most High's will. But it says, be in peace with many, and like Paul said in Romans as well, he said, be at peace with all men if possible, right? Anybody who is of the faith or in the truth or claims to be in the truth, I will do to the best of my ability to try to be at peace with them, if possible. Some people it's impossible because they don't have no peace anywhere they go. They're gonna disturb the peace. But it says, be at peace with many, nevertheless have but one counselor of 1,000. So before the courting phase, I would say, or I would contend, that you as a man have to strictly or sternly or austerely, however you want to say it, let the sister know that once y'all are in the courting phase, you are her counselor as a man.
And you should be able to counsel her.
You should be able to counsel her, but you are her counselor. Because again, when you're in the courting phase, courting isn't like, oh, okay, we're just gonna get to know each other and blah blah blah. Courting is, okay, can this woman be a good wife? Can this man be a good husband? That's more. It's not like we're just getting to know each other and talk and we'll see where it goes. No, it's already, you're in the phase of, we're looking towards marriage. Okay, and that's why it also says, um, this is First Corinthians 14 and 35. It says, and if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for women to speak in the church. Now, this is talking about married women, but at the same time, it's a shame for a woman to go and counsel with another man if she's courting with another man already.
Boy.
And as a woman, you shouldn't have to do that.
Con.
You shouldn't have to do that, and you shouldn't do that. And as a man, you shouldn't do that.
Con.
If you want to keep going with verse, what were we on, 7?
7 now. It's verse 7. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him.
Prove him first, and don't be quick to credit them. You want to read it one more time?
Con. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him.
Don't be hasty to credit somebody, whether it be a man or whether it be a woman. And that's why you have to prove them first. It doesn't say hear what they say first. It says prove them. And again, being proved or proving something is through actions, right? Oh, hey man, I found $1,000,000. Give me that thousand you got right there, Rock, and I'll give you 2,000 tomorrow. All right, prove it. Prove you found 1,000,000. Let me see. You got pictures? Let me see some of the money, right? Why do you need to borrow $1,000 if
Exactly.
you got to prove it, right? This is Sirach 19 and 4. It says, "He that is hasty to give credit is light minded." He that is hasty, anybody who's quick to credit someone, is light minded. You do not have the type of mindset that you need to have if you are quick to credit somebody. Because especially when it comes to marriage or courting or having children with somebody,
Mhm.
like you're gonna bring another soul into this world quickly like that. You can't do that. You can't. And many people do. And some people, more than a few people that I've known, the first time they get married, they have sex, and then okay, well we're married. I mean, we had sex, and then boom, child
Baby.
on the way. First time,
Immediately.
and that's where it comes in. You want to get Luke 14 real quick. You if you hold that, and
Yeah.
that's why as a man you have to count. Well, as a woman too, but again, it's more on the man. You have to count the cost. If you can't afford a woman spiritually, then you shouldn't be courting or marrying or laying down, having sex with her, putting your seed inside of her.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't afford a woman financially, then you shouldn't be courting, marrying, putting your seed inside of her.
Mm-hmm.
As a woman, if you can't afford to be a wife in works, well, you know what? It's gonna cost me a lot to just not be as glamorous as I always am. It's gonna cost me a lot because I hang out with my mom and my tias, and I know they're wicked, but like I love them, and that's gonna cost me too much. You should think about these things before you get into it, because a lot of people don't think about it, and then once they're already in the midst of it, then they realize they don't have the cost. They don't have the amount that it costs.
Mm-hmm. This is Luke chapter 14, verse 28. For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it?
So you have to sit down and think about, what is this going to cost me? It says here building a tower. In some of the other translations, it says building a house. But think about it this way: your house is your family, right? That's why I would say house of David. And she was of the house of Saul. right? Or like my ribs page, it says Casa de Cana, house of Cana. When you're building up a house, as soon as you're married, that's your house. That woman's a part of your house. You have
Mhm.
kids, they're a part of your house.
Yep.
So you have to sit down and count the cost of what is the cost of energy, the cost of time, the cost of money, all the different costs that it's going to take in order to build up a family or build up a woman, right? Because some brothers, they get women that, or they get a wife that's, new to the truth, and it's like, you know what, she's super submissive though, and she really wants to be a wife, whatever, and then they get married and they don't realize how the cost that it's going to take in teaching them because they're brand new to the truth.
You should have taught him before you got married.
And then it's like, man, it's a lot of time,
Yep.
it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of patience.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be sometimes even things like you feel like maybe she should know already. Well, she probably should. Like the brother said, you probably should have taught her that before you got married.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, like I've spoke about many times before, um, and even I think my rib said it when we did a live a couple years ago about like marriage and stuff. The number one thing that a woman needs in coming into a marriage is she needs to be teachable.
That's the biggest one. She got to apply what's being taught.
She needs to be teachable. If you could be teachable and you can apply, like you said, apply what's being taught, and obviously it's got to come straight from the word. It's not just like
Mm-hmm.
whatever I say goes,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't even line up with the word. Because sometimes that's what brothers will do, is they'll try and get those new sisters in the truth because they don't know that much, so they can kind of manipulate them easier because they're greener, right? And I've seen that happen many times over the years as well. And then they end up, like I said, in Jude, where they were just men creeping in, and it says they creep into their beds is actually what it says too.
Yep.
And then what happens is they end up leaving them stranded, or maybe they're still. I've heard many times, oh yeah, the brother says we're still married, but like we're not even living together. He's not providing for me. He's not this, that, and the other. Right. So
Tragic.
as a woman, you got to count the cost. As a man, you got to count the cost and see if you have enough of everything in order to build that house.
Mm-hmm. Gotta have the tools in the shed.
Could you keep going from there?
Okay. Less happily after he hath laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish.
So if you do begin to build and then you're not able to finish, well, guess what? There is always going to be eyes or bystanders seeing that you were trying to build something and you didn't finish it. And what are they going to do? Mock.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to talk about it. You best believe multiple people are going to find out about it,
Oh yeah.
and it's not going to be good. So in order to not put yourself in that position, right? And let's think about it this way too. If you look at it from a physical example or aspect, let's say I'm building a physical house, and we got the foundation, it's done. Say the foundation cost me 30 grand, and then we got all the framing done for the walls, and that cost me another 20, and all the wood, and now we got the roof is up, and that cost me another 15, and now I ran out of money. They took longer than it expected. Now I have no money to finish it, and that's it. I have no money. I got to sell it as it is. I'm gonna take a huge loss. I lost time. I lost money.
Mm-hmm.
I lost energy. I lost if you really think about it, respect for myself, because it's like, damn, I couldn't even.
Mm-hmm.
That was gonna be my house.
Yep.
So it's the same thing spiritually, and a man puts more into it, to be honest. But for women too, you're gonna still take a huge loss.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to avoid that, going back to Sirach 6, what do we got to do? You got to prove people instead of just believing them, instead of just being hasty and giving them credit.
For some man is a friend for his own occasion, and will not abide in the day of thy trouble.
So some men are a friend for their own occasion. That occasion is to try and sleep with you,
Yep.
to try and get in, like they say in the world, get in your pants, but in the truth, we'll say, get in your skirt or your dress.
Hmm.
Some men are going to be your friend until that occasion where they get to lay with you. And then guess what? Now you're in trouble.
Done for.
And they will not abide with you in that trouble. You can read that one more time.
Con. For some man
So
is
like it's 7 and 8, Baba
oh
Kashaw.
con. Verse 7 and 8. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. For some man is a friend for his own occasion, and will not abide in the day of thy trouble.
So if you get a friend or you get someone to court you or you're someone you're courting with, you got to prove them first. Don't just hastily credit them because a lot of people are friends for their own occasion. And even not in this context, there's even people in the truth that will try to use you for other things as well. I've had multiple people try to use me for many different things, for attention, for views, for money, for their business,
Name it.
all types of stuff. And some people are only friends for their own occasion. They're gonna be your friend as long as they could get something out of you. Once they get it, that's it. You're not gonna hear from them no more.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and jump down to verse 14.
Verse 14. A faithful friend is a strong defense, and he that hath found such a one hath found a treasure.
So a faithful friend should be a defense against sin, against wickedness, against anything that's going to displease the Most High. So you either have people that are going to be pushing you in the wrong direction or pushing you in the right direction. And when it says a defense, that could go either way. Like we were saying earlier, a man's supposed to be able to protect the woman, but it also says that a wife is supposed to be a tower against death to her husband,
Mm-hmm.
right? And going back to what we were reading in 1 Corinthians 7, like defrauding each other, or everyone should be married so that they don't fall into fornication, right? A wife, not a woman, a wife can be a huge tower against death for brothers that may otherwise slip into, whether it be porn or dealing with harlots, whores, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
You got a woman to, I wouldn't say fill that void, but to provide that necessity that you have.
Con.
And that's what a woman partially is for. Obviously for other reasons too, not just sexual support, mentally and physically and all the other ways. But let's be perfectly honest, that's also why she is there for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it says a faithful friend is a strong defense, and the man should be able to defend you as well. And I remember there was a sister not too long ago too that I don't know if she was courting the brother, if they were just talking. I believe they were just talking, but we had all talked about it. She was mad because someone in her family was basically talking bad about her while he was present, and he wouldn't stand up for her at all.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't see anything wrong with it in the moment, right? Later on, I mean, after like counseling and talking about it and stuff, then of course hindsight's 2020,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in the moment, a man should should at all times be able to defend the woman that he is either married to or wanting to be married to, whether that be physically, whether that be spiritually, whether that be verbally. You should be able to protect that woman, right? So it says when you find someone like that that is a strong defense, you have found a treasure. But how do you find that type of treasure? You want to jump down to 16.
Verse 16. A faithful friend is the medicine of life, and they that fear the Most High shall find him.
When you really fear the Most High, then you'll find someone like that. Go ahead.
Whoso feareth Yahweh shall direct his friendship aright, for as he is, so shall his neighbor be also.
So here's the thing with a lot of people that end up in out of order or wicked relationships, marriages, etc. This says when you truly fear the Most High, then He will direct your friendship aright, or your courtship aright, or your marriage aright. For as He is, so shall his neighbor be also. So many times, like I'm sure we've all came across somebody in our lifetime, or the majority of us have came across somebody in our lifetime where you'll have a woman say something like, all men are garbage. Well, it is your fault for trying so many men that were garbage. You were attracted to garbage for whatever reason.
Let's be honest.
And same thing with men, right? Well, it's like every single woman that I've ever dated has cheated on me.
That's what you like, man.
You're attracted for some reason or another to women that cheat, right? So it the blame can't completely go outward, right? And this is saying, as you are, your neighbor shall be also. And that's why it says in you want to go to chapter 13. I think it's 13:16.
Yep. This is Sirach chapter 13, verse 16. All flesh consorteth according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like.
A man will cleave to his like. So you're gonna cleave to the type of people that you're like, right? And some people cleave to the type of people that they're like, and they don't even realize it. Go
Mm-hmm.
ahead.
What fellowship hath the wolf with the lamb? So the sinner with the godly.
Go ahead.
What agreement is there between the hyena and the dog? And what peace between the rich and the poor?
So you'll never see a hyena and a dog married to each other, even though they don't say it's marriage, right? You're never gonna see a wolf and a lamb just in a pack together. So saying the same thing with the sinner and the godly. So if you're trying to live in the truth, to put it as basic as possible when it comes to courting, right? If you want to get 2 Corinthians 6:14, we'll probably just get a couple more precepts and then close it out. To put it as basic as possible, right? You have to be equally yoked with the other person.
This is 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness?
So why are you going to be, if you're trying to walk in the light, why would you even talk to a person that's walking in the darkness? Unless it's about the scriptures, obviously, right? You're trying to shed some light on people that are in the darkness. But as far as like courting wise or marriage wise goes, like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of brothers that try to bring sisters into the truth for the specific purpose of marrying them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very dangerous, but that really shows where your mind and your spirit is at. That shows your true nature as far as women go. So it says, be ye not unequally yoked together. Now a yoke on livestock is that big old piece of metal where they're attached to together at the neck or at the shoulder. That's how it is when you're married. Once you have sex, that's a soul tie right there that is almost impossible to break.
Really, the Most High, the one that can break it off for you.
Con. And baptism being probably the main way, but for the most part, especially for women, because scientifically proven, women still carry the seed of any man that has ejaculated in her. She still carries the DNA of him for years and years after they've had sex. So that's only the Most High that can take that away, right? The
Hmm.
DNA is literally still inside of women for years and years and years to come.
And they are very blessed if he so chooses to do so. Because, boy.
Come. All things are possible through the Most High, but that doesn't mean that they are common,
Mm-mm. Nope.
right? Go ahead and jump down to 17.
Con. Verse 17. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith Yahweh, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith Yahweh Almighty.
So you have to come out from among anybody who's not seriously striving to follow after the Most High, right? And for a lot of women, by the time they realize that a man is not a leader or cannot lead properly or provide properly, it's already too late because they're married. And imagine being married, knowing that you can't divorce your husband according to the scriptures, and the only place he could lead you is to sin or to the lake of fire.
Shit, that's tough.
So you got that's this is why I'm saying you have to be very careful. And yes, that sounds bad for a woman, right? But imagine how the Most High sees a man, quote unquote man, who does this to a woman when she was sincere about trying to follow the Most High,
He don't escape.
right? And especially if it was one of those young ones, right, or those little ones in the truth,
Oh, don't offend them.
because like it says, if you offend a little one, those that are younger in the truth, especially, they're still babes in the truth, and then you go
Hmm.
and do something like that to a woman, it says it's better that a millstone be tied around your neck and you're thrown in the ocean.
Sheesh.
In other words, you're not gonna make it.
Basically, yeah,
For the
ain't no getting spared for that.
that's what our Messiah said, right? And of course, people can repent and they can get back in the favor of the Most High, but that's again possible. But is it common?
Nope.
I would contend that it's not that common because I've seen many brothers go the other way, sisters as well, right? Sisters as well. So being light-minded when it comes to this topic, which a lot of people have been and are, is in my mind it's crazy, and I guess that's because I've been with my rib for shoot. Look, check out this. This was us when she was in high school,
My goodness.
2013.
10 years, though. Well, really,
11,
11 now.
11 years. So 11 years ago, and only going on 7 in the faith, right? But knowing how serious marriage is, it's crazy to me that some people can just be very hasty to credit people and to just
Careless.
get married and to just have babies. Like it's not a big deal. Like it's just it's just supposed to be for life. It's just the soul tie.
Yeah, nothing
It's
too
just
crazy.
it's just us bringing another soul into the world.
Just sharing DNA, that's all. Nothing too crazy.
Like that's really crazy to me. But oh yeah, I had saved this post. Nah, it doesn't really have that many
Said it's a big deal. So it is.
con. It is a big deal, but sadly, a lot of people don't see it as that.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I had saved this post. this post. I don't know if you remember this, where it's just like a bunch of red
Oh
flags.
yeah.
Let me see. Biggest red flag
Oh
is
yeah.
white
The
Jesus.
moment you see that, run away.
Yep. It says believers celebrating Halloween. So that I'm gonna go over a couple of these. It was a post that I had saved from a long time ago, and it's just different red flags. Um, when you're courting, right? If the other person is still celebrating holidays,
Sheesh.
obvious red flag.
Yeah.
They're still eating unlawful foods. You are what you eat, right? We just
Mm-hmm.
read in 2 Corinthians 6, it says, touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and you will be my sons and daughters.
Mm-hmm.
It says, touch not the unclean thing. Imagine these people are eating and
Sheesh.
becoming the unclean thing because you are what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
It says, when they've been in the truth for months or years and still don't have any fringes. Um, when they don't keep the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of their ability. Red flag, obviously. When she has God first in her bio, but she's half naked in her pictures.
Uh-oh.
Red flag.
Uh-oh.
And I'll take it even farther. If she's following a whole bunch of different camps and a whole bunch of different men,
Cut it.
that's in my mind, that's a red flag, because that is that sows so much confusion in the mind of a woman. And let's put it this way: if Eve was deceived by one man,
Imagine
she
10.
was deceived by one man. And for those of y'all who don't know, the serpent was not an actual serpent. Okay, it wasn't a snake. But we all know people that we could be like, oh yeah, this dude in my past, man, that dude was a snake,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was symbolic. But she was deceived by one man. Now imagine she's following 5 different or 10 different dudes from 5 or 10 different congregations or camps, and they all have different doctrine that conflict. Imagine how confused she's gonna be, right? This one was for sisters. It says, when he claims to be a man of the Lord, but he's following a bunch of and liking a bunch of slutty females' pictures.
Ooh, big one.
That, and I've said this before, right? I challenge you, brothers or sisters, okay? Go to some of the most well known, I'm not even going to say names, some of the most well known elders and priests and teachers that call themselves Israelites. Okay. Go to their page on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
go to the people they're following, and look at the women that they're following. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about them behind closed doors,
Don't know what will.
because yeah, okay, man, but what they do for the nation, and they teach and blah 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 blah. There's one that teacheth many, but is unprofitable to himself. Right? That's it. That's in Sirach. If you really want to know the type of man a lot of these so-called leaders are, look at who they're following. Look at some of the I don't want to say sisters, the women that they're following, the, that they're liking, that they even comment on, that they hang out with, that they go clubbing with, all of that. Red flags. Um, when he's a man of the Most High, but he doesn't even teach you, obvious, right? When they continue to be around people who have a track record of causing them to sin or go
Mm-hmm.
off,
Yep.
or even like I said earlier, even if it's just to get them out of the spirit, because there's certain people, and a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, it's people that are their family members. For women that are trying to follow the faith, normally it's their mom or it's another female in their family. It could be men sometimes too, but from my experience, most of the time it is women in their family, whether it be a mom, a cousin, an aunt, a grandma,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case may be, that when they're trying to follow the Most High, they're going to do something to either try to get them to go against the word or just plant that seed of going against it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's some other ones, but I think that's a good amount enough for now. You have any precepts, Doc?
Man, I think you done hit it, to be honest with you, man. You done pretty much said everything. It's a lot of valuable information pertaining to the time period we coming into, and if you plan on adding somebody to your house. I guess the only thing I'll say is it was one thing before times got as intense as it is right now because it probably didn't, take as long to prove people, or if things just wasn't as difficult as it is now because there's a lot of deception going on, a lot of people putting on masks, what I'm saying, trying to get covered because they see what's coming, but they're trying to, mask the identity of who they really are.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And so I would say definitely, definitely, if you have the ears to hear, the eyes to see, and the discipline, and you actually genuinely care for your soul, please, please, please do yourself a favor and be mindful of anybody that you possibly either trying to add to your house or sisters, anybody that you trying to join, because everybody ain't who they say they is. I'm pretty sure y'all heard the saying before. Everything that glitters is not always gold, and everything that shines bright is not always a diamond.
Con, con. And it's like, again, going back to martial arts, right? The bigger the fight is, the more prepared you want to be, and the more prepared people you want to have in your corner.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you got somebody. Well, most people know UFC, right? I was gonna give a different example, but most people know you. Oh, what's the name? Sean Strickland's gonna fight tomorrow in the UFC for the belt. That dude is one of the craziest
Yeah.
red.
I
But
put him in my corner.
but yeah, he does speak a lot of facts, right?
Yup.
He does. Did you see? Oh, I didn't send it to you. I sent it to my Ribbon, another brother. He was saying some stuff about the LGBT, bro. Oh
Uh-oh,
my god, that was
alphabet
fun.
soup.
I'll show it to you later. But when you're training for a championship fight like he is, right? It's the biggest fight of his life. It's probably gonna be the toughest fight of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's gone through other battles and fights and stuff like that, like the brother said, we're coming into worse and worse times. It's a bigger fight, right? So you want to make sure that you have the best possible help or coach or head or leader
Yep.
or woman that's going to help you
Yep.
that you possibly can,
Mm.
right? And you don't want to be light-minded and just be like, oh, you know what, yeah, I'm fighting for the belt in 3 months. Well, this I heard this guy. He said he's taught other people and he's fought before. Yeah, yeah, just get him. You got to prove whoever it is because, like Yahushua said in Matthew 24, Luke 21, it's going to be a worse time than has ever been or ever will be.
And we just don't know how serious that really is until we get there. It's gonna
Con,
it's gonna be bad though.
con. It's like I've said it many times before, it's like all the Book of Eli, Walking Dead, Songbird, all these movies. It's probably going to be a little bit of all of them put together and then some we never even heard or thought of, right? So knowing that, we should be even more circumspect and more vigilant as to who you're going to add to your house or whose house you're going to be joining. And if you're not vigilant about it, then you'll have no one to blame
Mm-hmm.
when you're hand in hand with somebody wicked and then you fall, right? This is Proverbs 11 and 21. It says, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. Who is the righteous? That is the Most High. Who is his seed? It is those that are following him. It says, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. But though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished. So you do not want to be hand in hand with somebody wicked when that time comes,
No
right?
shit.
And it's like following Yeshua said years and years ago. He was like, you're gonna want to know somebody.
Definitely gonna want
In
to know
that
somebody.
time, you're gonna want to know somebody,
Bad.
right? So we'll go ahead and finish with this. This is Ecclesiastes 4, starting on 9. It says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth. Woe to him that is alone when he falleth. for he hath not another to help him up. So picture that you fall down in the forest. Let's say you're hiking, you crack your ankle, or you just roll your ankle. You're by yourself,
Oh my.
and you can't get back up,
Mm-mm.
and your cell phone's out of service,
I would hate that.
and you're 10 miles into the national park.
Oh
You better hope and pray that by some miracle somebody comes by.
man, good shit.
Because it says, woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? All those chicks right there, about almost 30 chicks in there, why do they stay so warm? Because they're all cuddled up together.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They tell you, you ever get trapped in a snowstorm and you're with somebody, you're supposed to get naked and cuddle together for body heat. Because if you're by yourself, you ain't gonna have heat. You're gonna
You
freeze.
know, freeze to death.
It says, and if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. So it says, if one prevail, let's say someone is fighting again. Let's say a woman gets attacked by a man, and that one man is gonna prevail against a woman. 99% of men are stronger than almost all women.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know there's some effeminate, there's some fruitcakes out there and stuff like that, but the majority of them are still stronger than women.
Yeah, I've seen gay folks beat people up.
Hey, they get pretty masculine when they get in fights, right?
Yeah.
With some of them. But anyways, it says if one prevails against them, two shall withstand him. A real man is going to come in there swinging. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken. And that again, that could be polygamy. That could mean you, a man and his wife and the Most High, right? Or that could be a man and his two ribs. Threefold cord is not quickly broken. But with that, give all praise to the Most High, Yahweh, Bashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Most High willing, this lesson edified at least one or a few of you brothers and sisters out there that are either courting or even married already. Soon, maybe most high willing, next week, we're gonna do that lesson on divorce and like marriage issues and stuff like that. I know we touched on a couple of them, but I believe that was the second most voted on besides what? Oh, the Trinity.
Yeah.
So that'll be the next lesson, and then after that, we'll see what the Most High puts on my spirit to do. But yeah, shalom, kingdom minded. Hope all is well with you, Ak. Everybody on here, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatah, and Shabbat Shalom to anybody who is observing it.
Shabbat shalom.